The classroom was always too loud. Maya Chen sat in the back corner, near the window where the afternoon sun made warm squares on her desk. She was 17 years old, small for her age, with straight black hair that she kept tied back in a simple ponytail. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black, and they rarely met anyone else's gaze. She had a notebook open in front of her. But she was not taking notes. She was drawing small patterns in the margins, circles within circles, mazes that led nowhere. The teacher, Mr. Patterson, was talking about the First Contact War. It had happened 12 years ago, when Maya was only 5 years old. Everyone remembered where they were when the Kethrani ships appeared in the sky. Everyone except Maya. She had been too young to remember, and her parents had never talked about it. Her parents never talked about much of anything anymore. The Kethrani had come from a star system 40 light-years away. They were tall beings, 8 feet on average, with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone in different colors, gray and brown and sometimes a deep blue. They had come to Earth not as invaders, not exactly, but as something worse. They had come as judges. The Kethrani believed that every intelligent species had to prove its worth. They called it the trial of becoming. If a species failed, they were not destroyed, but they were absorbed into the Kethrani Empire as a servant race. If they succeeded, they would be treated as equals, as partners in the great work of exploring the galaxy. Earth had 12 years to prepare. The trial would be a series of battles, fought in a massive arena on the Kethrani homeworld. Each battle would test different abilities: strength, speed, strategy, adaptability, and something the Kethrani called inner fire. Humanity had no idea what that last one meant, but they had been training their best soldiers, their strongest athletes, their brightest minds. Maya was none of those things. She was just a quiet girl who sat in the back of class and never raised her hand. The bell rang, and students began to pack up their things. Maya moved slowly, carefully placing her notebook in her bag, waiting for everyone else to leave first. She did not like crowds. She did not like the way people looked at her when she tried to walk past them, the way they seemed to expect her to say something, to explain herself. She was almost to the door when a voice called out behind her. "Maya, stay for a moment, please." It was Mr. Patterson. Maya turned slowly, her heart beating faster. Had she done something wrong? Had he noticed that she never participated, never answered questions, never spoke? Mr. Patterson was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been teaching for 30 years, and he had seen every kind of student. He had noticed Maya Chen on the first day of class, noticed how she seemed to make herself smaller, how she flinched when anyone spoke too loudly, how her eyes tracked every movement in the room like she was always expecting danger. "I wanted to give you something," he said. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small device, about the size of a coin. It was silver and shiny, with a tiny blue light that pulsed gently. Maya stared at it but did not reach out to take it. "It's an invitation," Mr. Patterson said. "To the selection center downtown. They're looking for candidates for the trial." Maya's eyes widened slightly. The selection center was where young people went to be tested, to see if they had what it took to represent humanity in the battles to come. But those people were athletes, geniuses, soldiers in training. They were not quiet girls who could not even speak in class. "I think you should go," Mr. Patterson said. He placed the device on the edge of his desk, within her reach. "I've been teaching for a long time, Maya. I've learned to see things that others miss. There's something in you, something strong. I don't know what it is, but I think you should find out." Maya looked at the device, then at Mr. Patterson, then back at the device. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and picked it up. It was warm in her hand, warmer than it should have been. She did not say thank you. She did not say anything at all. She just nodded once and walked out of the room. That night, Maya sat on her bed and stared at the device. Her room was small and plain, with bare walls and a single window that looked out at the city skyline. In the distance, she could see the tall tower of the selection center, lit up with blue lights that matched the glow of the device in her hand. Her parents were downstairs, but she could barely hear them. They moved through the house like ghosts, speaking in whispers, avoiding each other's eyes. It had been like this for as long as Maya could remember. Her mother worked long hours at a medical clinic. Her father was always in his study, doing research that he never talked about. They loved her. She knew that, but they did not know how to show it. They did not know how to talk to her, and she did not know how to talk to them. Maya pressed the button on the device. A holographic image appeared in the air in front of her, a woman with short blonde hair and a serious face. She was wearing the uniform of the United Earth Defense Force, the organization that was preparing humanity for the trial. Candidate invitation confirmed, the woman said. Please report to Selection Center, 7 at 0800 hours tomorrow. Bring nothing. Everything you need will be provided. This invitation is non-transferable and will expire in 24 hours. The image disappeared, and Maya was alone again. She did not sleep that night. She lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking about all the things she was afraid of. Speaking in public, being judged, failing, being seen. She thought about all the times she had wanted to say something, to speak up, to be noticed, and all the times she had stayed silent instead. But she also thought about what Mr. Patterson had said. There's something in you, something strong. No one had ever said that to her before. At 7 in the morning, Maya got out of bed, got dressed, and left the house without eating breakfast. She did not tell her parents where she was going. They would not have noticed anyway. The selection center was a massive building in the heart of the city, all glass and steel, shining in the morning light. There were hundreds of other young people there, all of them looking confident and strong and ready. Maya felt like a mouse in a room full of lions. She showed her device to the guard at the entrance, and he scanned it with a small handheld reader. His eyebrows rose slightly when he saw the result, but he did not say anything. He just waved her through. The testing took all day. There were physical tests first: running, jumping, lifting, fighting. Maya was small and not particularly strong, but she was fast. Faster than anyone expected. When they put her in a simulated combat scenario, she moved through the obstacles like water through a filter, finding paths that no one else could see. The proctors took notes but did not speak to her directly. Then there were mental tests, puzzles, strategy games, simulations where she had to make quick decisions under pressure. Maya's mind was quiet, always quiet, but it was also sharp. She saw patterns that others missed. She remembered details that others forgot. When they put her in a negotiation simulation, she did not speak, but she watched and listened. And when she finally made her move, it was perfect. More notes, more silence. Finally, there was the last test. Maya was led into a small room with white walls and a single chair. A woman was waiting for her, an older woman with gray hair and eyes that seemed to look right through her. Sit down, please, the woman said. Maya sat. My name is Dr. Reyes. I'm a psychologist with the UEDF. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to answer as honestly as you can. There are no right or wrong answers here. I just want to understand who you are. Maya nodded. Why don't you speak? Maya blinked. No one had ever asked her that directly before. They always danced around it, pretending not to notice, or they made assumptions without ever asking. She thought about the question for a long time. Dr. Reyes waited, patient and still. Finally, Maya reached for the tablet on the table between them. She typed quickly and turned the screen so Dr. Reyes could read it. I can speak. I choose not to. Words are heavy. When I use them wrong, they hurt people. When I don't use them at all, I can listen. I can watch. I can understand things that people try to hide with their words. Dr. Reyes read the message twice. Then she looked at Maya with something new in her eyes, something that might have been respect. When did you learn this? Maya typed again. When I was 7, my father said something to my mother that he didn't mean. The words were kind, but his voice was angry. After that, I started paying attention to the spaces between words. The things people don't say are often more true than the things they do. Dr. Reyes nodded slowly. That's very insightful for someone so young. Maya shrugged. One more question, Dr. Reyes said. Why are you here? What made you come to the selection center? Maya thought about this for a long time. She thought about Mr. Patterson and his kind eyes. She thought about her parents and their silent house. She thought about the Kithrani and their trial, about all the people who were training and fighting and preparing to prove that humanity was worth saving. She typed her answer carefully. Because I'm tired of being invisible. Because I want to matter. Because somewhere inside me, there's a voice I've never used. I want to find out what it sounds like. Dr. Reyes smiled. The first smile Maya had seen all day. Thank you, Maya. We'll be in touch. 2 weeks later, Maya received another message. She had been selected for advanced training. She was going to represent humanity in the trial of becoming. The training facility was on a remote island in the Pacific Ocean, far from the cities and the crowds and all the noise of normal life. Maya was one of 50 candidates who had been chosen from millions of applicants around the world. They were the best, the brightest, the strongest, and then there was Maya, who never said a word. The other candidates did not know what to make of her at first. They were used to confidence, to loud voices and strong handshakes and constant competition. Maya was like a shadow among them, always present but never quite visible. She sat alone in the cafeteria. She trained alone in the practice rooms. She slept alone in her small quarters, staring at the ceiling and wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. But slowly, things began to change. The first to notice was a young man named Jackson. He was tall and muscular, with dark skin and a quick smile, one of the best fighters in the program. He had been watching Maya during combat training, watching how she moved, how she predicted her opponent's attacks before they made them. "You've got good instincts," he said to her one day, coming up beside her as she stretched after a workout. Maya looked at him but did not respond. "I know you don't talk," Jackson said. "That's okay. I talk enough for both of us. I just wanted to say, don't let the others get to you. They think you're weird because you're quiet. But I think you're just paying attention while the rest of us are running our mouths." He held out his hand. Maya looked at it for a moment, then slowly reached out and shook it. From that day on, Jackson became something like a friend. He sat with her at meals, talked to her about training, told her stories about his family back home in Nigeria. Maya listened to everything, and sometimes she would type responses on her tablet, and Jackson would read them and laugh or nod or ask more questions. "You know," he said one evening, "you're probably the only person here who actually listens. Everyone else is so busy trying to prove themselves that they don't hear anything. But you hear everything," Maya typed. "That's why I don't talk. So I can hear." Jackson grinned. "See, that's exactly what I mean." The months passed, and the training intensified. They learned to fight with weapons from a dozen different worlds. They studied alien biology, alien psychology, alien tactics. They ran simulations of every possible battle scenario, over and over, until Maya could see the patterns in her sleep. She was not the strongest candidate. She was not the fastest or the smartest or the most charismatic. But she had something that none of the others had, something that even the trainers could not quite explain. She could see, not just with her eyes, but with something deeper. She could watch a person move for 30 seconds and know their weaknesses, their fears, their breaking points. She could read a battlefield in a glance and find the one path to victory that everyone else had missed. She could sense danger before it arrived, like a whisper at the edge of her consciousness. The trainers called it battle intuition. Dr. Reyes called it a gift. Maya called it the only thing that had ever made her feel alive. When the final selection came, Maya was one of 12 candidates chosen to represent humanity in the trial. She stood on the platform with the others as the cameras broadcast their images to every screen on Earth. Billions of people watched, hoping, praying, terrified of what was to come. Maya did not wave. She did not smile. She just stood there, still and silent, her dark eyes looking straight ahead. The announcers did not know her name yet. They called her the quiet one, the mystery candidate, the girl who never speaks. They speculated about her, made up stories, tried to understand why someone who could not even talk would be chosen to fight for the future of humanity. They did not understand. Not yet, but they would. The ship that carried them to the Kethrani homeworld was called the Unity. It was the largest vessel humanity had ever built, a symbol of everything Earth had accomplished in the 12 years since first contact. Maya spent most of the 3-month journey in the observation deck, watching the stars slide past the windows like slow-moving rivers of light. The other candidates trained constantly, pushing their bodies and minds to the absolute limit. They sparred with each other, studied battle strategies, ran simulations until they could barely stand. Maya trained too, but differently. She spent hours in the meditation rooms, learning to quiet her mind even further. to sharpen the strange sense that let her see what others could not. Jackson came to find her one evening, carrying 2 cups of something hot that smelled like coffee but was probably a synthetic substitute. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. Maya nodded and accepted the cup he offered. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching a distant nebula paint the darkness with purple and gold. "You know," Jackson said after a while, "I used to think I was ready for this. I trained my whole life, ever since I was a kid. My father was military. My mother was military. My grandparents fought in wars before I was born. Fighting is in my blood." Maya looked at him, waiting. But the closer we get, the more I realize that nothing could have prepared us for this. We're going to fight creatures from other worlds. Creatures we've never seen before. We're going to fight for the right to exist as a free species. And if we lose— He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Maya typed on her tablet. "Are you afraid?" "Terrified," Jackson said with a weak smile. "But I'm more afraid of letting everyone down. All those people back home, counting on us. My family, my friends. The kid I used to be who dreamed of doing something that mattered." Maya typed again. "That fear means you care. It means you have something worth fighting for. The fighters who feel nothing are the most dangerous, because they have nothing to lose. But they are also the weakest, because they have nothing to protect." Jackson read the message twice. "Where did you learn that?" Maya shrugged. "I watch, I listen, I think." "Well," Jackson said, raising his cup in a small toast, "remind me to keep watching and listening to you." The Kethrani homeworld was called Kethra Prime. It was a massive planet, twice the size of Earth, with gravity that made every step feel like walking through water. The sky was a deep orange, lit by a red sun that never seemed to set completely. The cities were vast and ancient, built from stone and metal, rising in spirals and spires that touched the clouds. The 12 human champions were escorted to a place called the Arena of Proving. It was a coliseum that could hold 1,000,000 spectators, with walls that stretched so high they disappeared into the orange haze of the sky. Maya had never seen anything so large, so overwhelming, so designed to make her feel small. But she did not feel small. For the first time in her life, she felt exactly the right size. The Kethrani High Council welcomed them with a ceremony that lasted for hours. They spoke of honor and tradition, of the thousands of species that had faced the trial over the millennia. Some had passed and joined the community of free worlds. Others had failed and been absorbed into the empire. "The trial is not about strength alone," the High Chancellor said. He was ancient, his stone-like skin cracked with age, his 4 eyes clouded but still sharp. "It is about the spirit of your species. Your ability to adapt, to endure, to find light in the darkest moments. We will test you in ways you cannot imagine, and we will see what humanity is truly made of." The first battle came on the 3rd day. They were matched against a species called the Orcs, reptilian creatures with 4 legs and 2 powerful arms, covered in scales that could turn aside most weapons. The Orcs were known for their ferocity, their speed, their utter lack of mercy. Jackson was chosen to fight first. Maya watched from the viewing platform as he entered the arena. He was armed with a plasma blade, a weapon that hummed with blue energy, and he moved with the confidence of someone who had trained for this moment his entire life. The Vorax champion was larger than him, faster than him, and far more experienced. The fight lasted only 3 minutes. Jackson lost. He was carried out of the arena on a stretcher, his body broken but his eyes still open. As they passed Maya's position, he reached out and grabbed her hand, squeezing it weakly. "Watch them," he whispered. "See what I missed?" Maya nodded, and Jackson was taken away. The next 2 battles went the same way. Human champions, trained and ready, entered the arena with confidence and left with defeat. The Vorax were simply too strong, too fast, too brutal. After 3 losses, the viewing platform was heavy with despair. Maya stood apart from the others, her eyes fixed on the arena floor. She had watched every second of every fight, noting every movement, every pattern, every tiny weakness that the Vorax champions revealed without knowing it. "We can't beat them," one of the other champions said, a woman named Elena who specialized in martial arts. "They're faster than us, stronger than us. It doesn't matter how good we are." Maya typed on her tablet and held it up for everyone to see. "They are faster, they are stronger, but they are also predictable. They fight with instinct, not strategy. They attack when they feel challenged and retreat when they feel threatened. They cannot handle confusion. Elena stared at her. And how exactly do we confuse them? Maya typed again. By being what they don't expect. The fourth battle was Maya's turn. She walked into the arena alone, dressed in simple training clothes, carrying no weapon. The crowd of Kethrani spectators murmured in confusion. The other human champions shouted at her from the platform, begging her to take a weapon, to use the armor that was available to her. Maya ignored them all. The Vorax champion that entered the arena was the largest yet. A beast covered in black scales with eyes that glowed red with battle rage. It roared at Maya, a sound that shook the ground beneath her feet, and charged. Maya did not move. She stood perfectly still, watching the creature approach, watching its muscles bunch and release, watching its eyes track her position. At the last possible moment, when the Vorax was almost upon her, she stepped to the side. Not a dramatic leap or a roll, just a single step, calm and precise. The Vorax crashed past her, thrown off balance by its own momentum. It spun around, confused, and charged again. Again, Maya stepped aside, and again, and again. For 5 minutes, she did nothing but watch and move, never attacking, never showing fear. The Vorax grew frustrated, then angry, then wild with rage. Its attacks became sloppy, predictable, desperate. The crowd fell silent. Even the Kethrani High Council leaned forward, watching with intense interest. Finally, when the Vorax was panting and exhausted, Maya moved, not to attack, but to gesture. She pointed at the creature's chest, then at her own, then held up her hands in what could only be a question. The Vorax stared at her, confusion replacing rage in its red eyes. Maya typed on her tablet and showed it to the creature. The arena had translation systems that converted her words into the Vorax language, displayed on screens around the arena. Why do you fight? The Vorax did not answer. It could not. Its species had never been asked that question in the arena before. Maya typed again. Your people were conquered by the Kethrani long ago. You fight for them now, but not for yourselves. You have forgotten why you battle. She stepped closer, still without weapon, still without defense. I fight because my people have never faced the stars. We are new. We are afraid. But we are also curious. We want to learn, not just survive. She held up her hands, palms open. I do not want to defeat you. I want to understand you. That is what it means to be human. We try to understand, even when we are afraid. The arena was completely silent. 1,000,000 Kethrani held their breath. The Vorax champion stared at Maya for a long moment. Then, slowly, it sat down on the arena floor. It placed its weapons on the ground and pushed them away. In the stands, the Kethrani High Chancellor rose to his feet. The Vorax champion has yielded, he announced, his voice echoing through the massive space. The human called Maya Chen has won the 4th battle by means of surrender without combat. This has not happened in the arena of proving for 3,000 years. Maya bowed to the Vorax, then turned and walked out of the arena. Behind her, the crowd erupted into noise, a mixture of confusion and amazement, and something that might have been admiration. On the viewing platform, the other human champions stared at her in stunned silence. How did you do that? Elena asked. Maya typed her response. I listened. I watched. I saw that the Vorax was tired of fighting. It had been a slave for so long that it had forgotten what freedom felt like. I just reminded it. Elena shook her head slowly. You're something else, Maya Chen. That night, Maya went to visit Jackson in the medical facility. He was recovering quickly, thanks to the advanced Kethrani healing technology, and he greeted her with a wide smile when she entered his room. I watched the whole thing, he said. Everyone did. You're famous now. The human who won without fighting. Maya sat down beside his bed and typed on her tablet. I just did what you taught me. Watched, listened, paid attention. Jackson laughed. I never taught you anything. You figured it out yourself. But Maya, that was incredible. You showed them something about humanity that no amount of fighting could have shown. You showed them that we think differently. He reached out and took her hand. The other battles are going to be harder. The Vorax are just the first challenge. There are 7 more species we have to face, and not all of them will be willing to surrender. Some of them will want to kill us. Some of them will be monsters that don't understand mercy or compassion. Maya nodded. She knew this already. She had studied the records of past trials, knew the names of the species that had fought and failed, knew the terrible cost of losing. But now they know your name, Jackson said. Every screen on every planet in the Kethrani Empire is showing your face. They're calling you the Silent Champion, the Warrior of Whispers. They say you carry a power that cannot be seen. Maya almost smiled at that. Almost. You need to get some sleep, she typed. Tomorrow is another battle. What about you? Jackson asked. When do you sleep? Maya stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the orange sky of Kithra Prime. In the distance, the arena of proving stood like a monument to all the species that had come before, all the hopes and fears that had been tested within its walls. I sleep when it's over, she typed without turning around. Until then, I watch. The next 4 battles were the hardest tests Maya had ever faced. Each species was different, each with its own strengths and weaknesses, its own culture and history. Some of them could be reasoned with, approached with the same technique that had worked on the Vorax. Others had to be fought with everything the human champions had. Maya did not fight in every battle. The rules of the trial required that different champions face different challenges, but she was always watching, always analyzing, always finding the patterns that others missed. Before each fight, she would share her observations with whoever was entering the arena, giving them the edge they needed to survive. Elena faced a species of water-dwelling creatures called the Nephilim, beings that could move faster in liquid than any human could move on land. Maya told her to use the arena's terrain to her advantage, to force the fight onto the dry sections where the Nephilim would be slow and clumsy. Elena won, barely. A champion named Victor faced a species of insectoid warriors called the Chitik, creatures that fought in perfect coordination, like a single organism with many bodies. Maya told him to target the largest one, the queen, whose pheromones controlled the movements of all the others. Victor won, though he lost an arm in the process. Each victory brought humanity closer to passing the trial. Each victory made Maya's name more famous across the galaxy. The screens showed her face constantly, this small, quiet human who never spoke but seemed to see everything. The Kethrani called her the Observer. The Vorax called her the Silent Storm. Other species had other names, but they all meant the same thing. She was dangerous in a way that none of them understood. After the 6th battle, Maya was summoned to meet with the Kethrani High Council. She walked alone through the vast corridors of their palace, past statues of ancient heroes and tapestries that told the stories of 1,000 worlds. The High Chancellor waited for her in a chamber of pure white stone. He was alone, without guards or attendants, and he gestured for her to sit across from him. "You are not like the others," he said. It was not a question. Maya shook her head. "I have lived for many centuries," the Chancellor continued. "I have seen every kind of champion from every kind of species. Warriors and scholars, leaders and followers, heroes and monsters, but I have never seen someone like you." He leaned forward, his 4 ancient eyes fixed on her face. "You do not fight with weapons or strength. You fight with understanding. You see into the hearts of those who face you, and you find the thing they fear most. Not pain or death, but truth. You show them who they really are." Maya typed her response on her tablet. "I just watch. I listen. Most beings are so busy making noise that they never notice what is really happening around them." The Chancellor nodded slowly. "The final battle will be different. Your opponent will not be a species from the Empire. It will be a species that has never been defeated in the arena of proving. They are called the Remnant, and they are the most dangerous fighters in the known galaxy." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. She had read about the Remnant in the ancient records. They were a species that had evolved to be perfect predators, with no culture, no society, no emotion. They existed only to hunt and kill. "Why are you telling me this?" she typed. "Because I want you to understand what you are facing," the Chancellor said, "and because I want to offer you a choice." He reached into his robes and pulled out a small device, similar to the one that had first brought Maya to the selection center back on Earth. "This device will transport you home, instantly. You can leave now, before the final battle. You and your fellow champions can return to Earth, and we will give humanity another generation to prepare before the trial continues." Maya stared at the device. "If you stay and face the Remnant, you may die. All of you may die. The remnant have never shown mercy. They do not surrender. They do not hesitate. Maya sat in silence for a long moment, thinking about everything she had left behind. Her quiet room, her silent parents, the classroom where she had never spoken a word. She thought about Jackson and Elena and Victor and all the others who had come so far, risked so much. She thought about Earth, billions of people watching the screens, hoping, praying, terrified. Finally, she typed her response. I have been silent my whole life. I never spoke because I was afraid. Afraid of being wrong. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of being seen. She paused, then continued. But in this arena, I have found my voice. Not in words, but in actions. In understanding. In the connections I have made with beings from other worlds. I will not run now. I will face the remnant. And if I die, I will die speaking the only language I have ever truly known. She looked up at the Chancellor. I will be being seen. The Chancellor was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, he smiled. I think, he said, that humanity may be more ready than anyone expected. The day of the final battle arrived with a silence that seemed to swallow the entire planet. The orange sky of Kethra Prime was darker than usual, as if the sun itself knew what was about to happen. Maya stood at the window of her quarters, watching the distant arena of proving rise against the horizon like a monument to all the hopes and fears of 1,000 worlds. She had not slept. She never slept before battles, but this time it was different. This time, she had spent the night doing something she had never done before. She had spoken, not to anyone else, but to herself, in the mirror of her small room, practicing the words she had never been able to say. Her voice was soft and rough from years of disuse. But it was there. It had always been there, waiting. A knock came at her door. It was Jackson, walking on his own now, fully healed but still moving carefully. Behind him stood Elena and Victor and all the other surviving champions, 8 of them in total. They had come to see her before the final battle. We know you're fighting alone today, Jackson said. The rules of the trial. The final battle is always one champion against the remnant. Maya nodded. She had known this from the beginning. We just wanted to tell you, Elena said, stepping forward, that no matter what happens, we believe in you. You've shown us something about ourselves that we never knew. You've shown us that being human isn't about being the strongest or the loudest. It's about understanding. It's about seeing the truth in others. Victor, who had lost his arm but not his spirit, held up a small device. It was a communication link, designed to connect to her tablet. We can't be in the arena with you, he said. But we'll be watching. All of us. All of Earth. Every screen on the planet will be showing your face. You won't be alone, Maya. You never will be again. Maya looked at them, at these people who had become more than teammates, more than friends. They were her family now, the only family that had ever truly seen her. She reached out and took Victor's hand, then Elena's, then Jackson's. She held them all for a moment, feeling their warmth, their strength, their hope. Then she let go and walked out of the room, toward the arena, toward the final battle. The arena of proving was packed with spectators from across the galaxy. Not just Kethrani, but representatives from every species in the Empire. Millions of beings who had come to witness the final test of humanity. The air was thick with tension, with anticipation, with something that felt almost like fear. Maya entered the arena alone, as the rules required. She wore no armor, carried no weapon. She was exactly as she had been on the first day of the trial. A small, quiet human with dark eyes and a silent voice. The screens around the arena lit up with her image, and text scrolled across them in 100 languages. Maya Chen, the silent champion, humanity's final hope. Across the arena, a door opened, and the remnant entered. It was not what Maya had expected. The ancient records had described the remnant as monstrous, as terrifying, as the ultimate predator. But the creature that walked toward her was almost humanoid, tall and slender, with silver skin that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its eyes were large and completely black, without pupils or irises, just endless darkness. It moved with a grace that was almost beautiful, each step precise and deliberate. And as it approached, Maya felt something she had never felt before in the arena. Recognition, The remnant stopped in the center of the arena, directly across from Maya. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Two beings from opposite ends of the galaxy, each trying to understand the other. Then the remnant did something impossible. It spoke, not with sound, but with thought. Maya felt the words appear in her mind, clear and cold. "You are different," the remnant said. "You do not fear us like the others." Maya did not react. She simply watched, listening to the voice inside her head. "We have fought 10,000 champions from 1,000 worlds. All of them feared us. All of them tried to destroy us before we could destroy them. But you stand there, unarmed, unafraid." Maya typed her response on her tablet, and the translation systems displayed it on the screens. "I am afraid, but fear does not control me." The remnant tilted its head, a gesture that seemed almost curious. "You are honest. That is also different. Most beings lie to themselves before they die." Maya typed again. "I have spent my whole life in silence. I have had a lot of time to think about truth and lies." For the first time since the remnant entered the arena, there was a ripple of movement through the crowd. The spectators were confused. This was not how battles were supposed to go. "We were created to be perfect," the remnant said. "Our makers designed us to have no weakness, no emotion, no connection to anything except the hunt. For 10,000 years, we have been alone. We have killed because it is the only thing we know how to do." Maya felt the weight of those words, the endless loneliness behind them. "But lately, we have begun to wonder if there is something else. Something beyond the hunt. Something that makes existence worthwhile." The remnant took a step closer, its black eyes fixed on Maya's face. "When we learned that we would face you in the final battle, we studied the recordings of your previous fights. We saw what you did to the Voraks, how you defeated them without violence, how you showed them something about themselves that they had forgotten. Another step. We want you to show us too." Maya stood perfectly still, her heart beating faster than it ever had before. This was not what she had expected. This was not what anyone had expected. The remnant was asking her for help. She thought about everything she had learned in her life, about silence and watching and listening, about the spaces between words where truth lived, about the way beings hid from themselves, afraid of what they might find. Slowly, she typed her response. "I cannot show you what you already know. I can only help you see it for yourself." She paused, then continued. "You say you were created to be perfect. But perfection is an illusion. It means having no growth, no change, no possibility of becoming something new. You were designed to be weapons, but you are more than that. You are asking questions. You are wondering. You are hoping." She looked directly into those endless black eyes. "Weapons do not hope." The remnant was silent for a long moment. The entire arena was silent. Somewhere in the distance, Maya could feel the billions of humans on Earth holding their breath, watching their screens, waiting. Finally, the remnant spoke again. "What does it feel like to hope?" Maya thought about the question. She thought about the little girl who had sat in the back of class, afraid to speak, afraid to be seen. She thought about the moment when Mr. Patterson had given her the invitation to the selection center. She thought about Jackson and Elena and Victor and all the others who had believed in her. "Hope feels like a small fire in a dark room," she typed. "It does not light up everything. It does not take away the darkness, but it reminds you that light exists. And sometimes, that is enough to keep going." The remnant closed its eyes. When it opened them again, something had changed. The endless black was still there, but it seemed less empty now, less cold. "We have a proposal," the remnant said. "One that has never been made in the history of the trial." It turned to face the Kethrani High Council, which sat in a special box above the arena floor. "We do not wish to fight this champion. We wish to surrender." The crowd erupted into chaos. Shouts and cries and sounds that had no translation filled the arena. The High Chancellor rose to his feet, his ancient face showing more emotion than anyone had ever seen. "This is unprecedented," he said. "The remnant have never surrendered. In 10,000 years of combat, they have never shown anything but violence. We have changed," the remnant said. "This human has shown us that change is possible, that even creatures designed for destruction can choose to become something else." It turned back to Maya. "We wish to learn from you, from all of humanity. We wish to understand this thing you call hope. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. She did not try to stop them. The trial requires combat, the High Chancellor said, his voice uncertain. There must be a winner and a loser. These are the ancient laws, Maya typed quickly on her tablet. The trial is meant to test a species, to see if they are worthy of freedom. But what if the greatest test is not combat? What if it is something else entirely? She held up her tablet so everyone could see. The remnant are surrendering because they want to change. They want to become more than what they were created to be. Is that not the greatest victory possible? To transform an enemy into a friend? The Chancellor looked at her for a long time. Then he looked at the remnant, who stood beside her now, shoulder to shoulder. In all my centuries of life, he said slowly, I have never seen anything like this. He raised his hand, and the crowd fell silent. The ancient laws of the trial speak of combat and victory, but they also speak of something older, something deeper. They speak of a species proving its worth, proving that it deserves to take its place among the stars. He looked directly at Maya. Humanity has not just proven its worth today. It has shown us a new way of understanding worth itself. Not through strength or violence, but through connection. Through understanding. Through hope. He spread all four of his arms wide. By the power invested in me by the Kethrani Empire, I declare that humanity has passed the trial of becoming. From this day forward, the human race will be recognized as a free and equal member of the galactic community. The arena exploded with sound. Every species, every being, every creature that had gathered to witness this moment released their tension in a wave of noise that shook the ancient walls. Maya stood in the center of it all, silent as always, but no longer invisible. The remnant reached out and touched her shoulder with one silver hand. Thank you, it said in her mind. We do not know what we will become, but we know that we will not become it alone. Maya nodded. She understood loneliness better than anyone. She understood the fear of being seen, of being judged, of reaching out and finding nothing to hold on to. She typed one last message on her tablet. None of us are alone. We just forget sometimes. That's why we need each other. To remind us. The journey home took 3 months, but it felt shorter than the journey out. Maya spent most of her time with the remnant, who had chosen to accompany the human delegation back to Earth. It wanted to learn, it said. It wanted to understand what had made humanity different from all the other species it had faced. Maya taught it what she could. She showed it videos of human art and music. She shared stories from human history, the good and the bad, the triumphs and the tragedies. She introduced it to the other champions, who were uncertain at first but gradually came to accept this strange silver being that asked questions with the curiosity of a child. And somewhere in those 3 months, Maya began to speak. Not often, and not loudly. But sometimes, when she was alone with the remnant, she would say a word or two out loud. Simple things at first, like yes or no, or I understand. But gradually, her voice grew stronger. Her words became longer, and her silence became a choice rather than a cage. Jackson noticed first. You're talking now, he said one day, grinning from ear to ear. Actually talking. With your voice and everything. Maya nodded. I am learning, she said. Her voice was still soft, still hesitant, but it was there. The remnant taught me that even beings designed for one purpose can choose to become something else. I think maybe I was designed for silence, but I can choose to speak. Jackson's grin widened. Well, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. After 18 years of quiet, you must have a lot stored up. Maya almost laughed at that. Almost. When the Unity finally arrived back at Earth, the entire planet was waiting. Every screen on every building in every city showed the same image, Maya's face, next to the words, "The silent champion comes home." But Maya did not feel like a champion. She felt like a small girl who had finally found her voice, standing on the edge of a world that was waiting to hear what she had to say. The remnant stayed close to her as they descended from the ship, its silver form drawing gasps from the crowds that had gathered. But Maya had prepared for this. She had worked with the UEDF to ensure that humanity understood what the remnant represented. Not a threat, but a new kind of ally. As they walked through the streets of the city, Maya saw something that stopped her in her tracks. There, in the crowd, stood Mr. Patterson. He was older than she remembered, his hair completely white now, his face lined with the years that had passed, but his eyes were the same, kind and knowing, seeing things that others missed. Maya broke away from the delegation and walked toward him. The crowd parted around her, uncertain, watching. When she reached him, she did not type on her tablet. She did not gesture or sign or communicate in any of the ways she had learned during her years of silence. She spoke. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was clear and strong, carrying across the crowd, amplified by the devices that surrounded them and broadcast to every screen on the planet. "You saw something in me when no one else did. You gave me a chance when I thought I had nothing to offer. Because of you, I am here." Mr. Patterson's eyes filled with tears. He reached out and took her hands, holding them tightly. "I always knew," he said. "From the first day you sat in my class, I knew there was something special about you, something that the world needed to see." Maya smiled. It was the first time she had truly smiled in as long as she could remember. "The world sees me now," she said. "And I have so much to say." The months that followed were filled with more change than Maya had experienced in her entire life. She became a diplomat, a bridge between humanity and the dozens of species that now wanted to learn more about this strange, quiet race that had changed the rules of the trial. The remnant stayed on Earth, living in a special facility that had been built for it, learning about human culture and sharing its own knowledge in return. It had been connected to a vast network of other remnant across the galaxy. And slowly, that connection was changing all of them. Maya visited it often, sitting with it in comfortable silence, watching the stars through the windows of its room. "We are spreading," the remnant told her one evening. "The things you taught us, about hope, about change, about choosing to be more than what we were created to be. Other remnant are listening. They are asking questions. They are beginning to hope." Maya nodded. "That is how change works. It starts small. One person, one idea, one moment of understanding, and then it grows. Like a fire in a dark room," the remnant said. Exactly like that. She thought about her parents then, for the first time in a long while. They had watched her journey on the screens like everyone else. They had seen her become famous, seen her speak for the first time in front of billions of people. And something in them had changed too. Her mother had called her the day she returned to Earth, crying, apologizing for all the years of silence, for all the times she had not known how to reach out. Her father had written her a letter, 20 pages long, explaining everything he had never said out loud. His fears, his regrets, his pride in the daughter he had always loved but never understood. It was not a perfect reconciliation. Years of silence could not be erased in a moment. But it was a beginning. It was hope. Maya stood up and walked to the window of the remnant's room. Outside, the city sparkled with lights, and beyond it, the stars shone with the promise of a galaxy that was finally opening its doors to humanity. "What will you do now?" the remnant asked. Maya thought about the question. She thought about all the battles she had fought, all the silence she had broken, all the connections she had made. "I will keep speaking," she said. "I spent too many years afraid to use my voice. Now I have so much to say, and so many beings who are willing to listen." She turned back to face the remnant. "And I will keep watching, listening, learning. That is who I am. It is who I will always be." The remnant's black eyes seemed to warm slightly. "That is why you are the most dangerous being we have ever met," it said. "Not because of what you can do, but because of what you can see. The Kathrani were right to fear you, even if they did not know it." Maya almost laughed. "They do not fear me now." "No," the remnant agreed. "Now they respect you, which is far more powerful." Later that night, Maya sat alone in her apartment, looking at a message on her tablet. It was from the Kathrani High Council, an invitation to address the Assembly of Free Worlds, to speak on behalf of humanity about the meaning of the trial and the future of galactic relations. She thought about the girl she had been, the one who could not speak in class, the one who hid in the corners and watched the world from the shadows. That girl was still inside her somewhere. She always would be. But now there was something else too. A voice that had finally found its way out, a light that had finally found its way into the world. Maya Chen, the silent champion, the warrior of whispers, the observer, stood up and walked to her window. The stars were bright tonight, brighter than they had ever been, and each one represented a world that was now part of her story. She had never said a word in class. Now her name was on every screen in the galaxy, and she was just getting started. In the years that followed, Maya became something that had never existed before. A translator, not just of languages, but of understanding. She traveled to 100 worlds, speaking to species that had never seen a human before, showing them that communication was not just about words, but about listening, about watching, about truly seeing the being in front of you. The remnant evolved with her, spreading across the galaxy, changing from predators to philosophers, from hunters to healers. They credited Maya with their transformation, though she always insisted that she had only shown them what was already inside them. And Earth changed too. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They had allies now, friends from across the stars, beings who had seen what a single quiet human could accomplish and had decided that maybe, just maybe, the universe was bigger than they had ever imagined. Maya never forgot where she came from. She returned to her old school sometimes, walking through the hallways where she had once been invisible, speaking to students who reminded her of herself. "You do not have to be loud to be heard," she would tell them. "You do not have to be strong to be powerful. Sometimes, the greatest strength is knowing when to listen, when to watch, when to truly see the people around you." And in the back of the classroom, there was always a quiet kid, sitting by the window, taking notes in the margins of a notebook. Maya would catch their eye and smile, because she knew that somewhere in that silence, there was a voice waiting to be found, a light waiting to shine, a story waiting to be told. All it needed was a chance, and Maya Chen would make sure they got one. She had spent 17 years in silence. Now she would spend the rest of her life making sure no one else had to do the same. Her battle name dominated every screen, but it was her voice, finally free, that changed the galaxy forever.